You're listening to Margins and Meaning with John Wilson. Margins and Meaning accepts zero responsibility for remakes, delaminations, fractures, open contacts, poor scans, missing opposings, non-index bytes, or any case that miraculously hits your inbox without a requested shade. Anything I say on the show is just my opinion. It's not gospel. It's not CE. It's not legal advice, and it definitely may induce emotional damage. Please, if you choose to listen to anything that was discussed here today, you do so at your own risk, preferably with a full night's sleep, sharp burrs, and a clinician who actually realize that there is, in fact, more shades in the shade guide than just A2. Listen at your own risk. Thank you. Welcome back to Margins and Meaning. I'm John Wilson, and this is going to be episode 13. I'm so glad that you're here, and if this is your first time and you're listening for the first time, let me say thank you. Today is going to be a little bit different than some of my other episodes, so I need to maybe make a little bit of a precursor here. You see, guys, if you've listened before, you know that I have some case files or some sort of framework or something that you can take back to your bench on Monday. Today is just a little different. Today is going to be me telling you the truth about where I'm at. And I need to ask you something before we start. I need to ask you to please stay with me. Stay with me all the way through this one, because if you stop halfway, you might think that this is a story about a man slowing down. And it's not. But there's no way that you're going to know that until you stick with it till the end. All right, guys, let's get into this. This is a fun story, meaningful story to me. Let's go. So let's talk about a morning, not a dramatic morning of any sort. Didn't start with an angry phone call or any real emergency. It was just a regular day. I think it was a Tuesday or maybe a Wednesday, and guys, I really can't honestly remember specifically, and somehow that almost makes it worse because, guys, you'd think something that actually changes the shape of your thinking would maybe announce itself a little bit louder than it did. You see, this morning I walked into the lab early like I had done countless times before. It's a little different today. I beat every other person and I flicked the lights on. And that lab was quiet. Just the hum of the machines sitting there waiting for somebody to wake them up and get them rolling. You know that sound, guys. You've seen it hundreds of times as you enter a quiet laboratory. And guys, it's not just silence. I like to think of it as potential. Maybe it's like the building's holding its breath before the day starts. And this day, much like many others, I moved through that space almost on autopilot, knowing where every corner was, every sharp edge, every potential trip and fall. I knew. You see, the path my feet make on that day and every other day was actually worn into me. And then I stopped. I stopped at a bench that was empty. Not empty like someone stepped away for a coffee break, or empty because the cases were all cleared out. It was empty like somebody was missing. You see, when he came to my laboratory, I let him set up his station any way he saw fit. He chose a stand-up bench, and that was different than anybody else in my little building. And the funny thing about it all is I scoffed at it when he wanted it, but I gave him opportunity. I wanted him to make it his own, and I liked it. I liked that every piece of that workspace was fit for him. He spent weeks getting it just the way he wanted it, and I appreciated that. You see, all those little fingerprints around that area was his own. He made it his own. And here's the thing, that station is still set up the way you left it. I haven't changed it. I have another technician working in there, and she keeps it much the same. It could be reconfigured, but guys, I haven't touched it. Maybe it's a reminder. Maybe it's that one last thing that I've held on to. I'm not sure which it is, but it's still there. It's been almost 2 years now, I guess, and I need to share a story. I lost somebody from this lab. And I need to be careful with how I use that word because he didn't fail me. He didn't get fired. He didn't leave because the work wasn't good enough or because there was some sort of falling out. Life asked him to make a choice that had nothing to do with dentistry. And he made it. You see, I sponsored this man to come to this country, and guys, that's not a small thing. And I'm not talking about the costs of it all. I'm sharing the fact that when you sponsor somebody, you're not just giving them a job. You're telling the immigration system that you actually believe in this person enough to put your name behind their presence here. And you're saying that this person matters and what they're going to contribute matters, and I will stand behind that. And I meant it. Because early on, I saw something in him. Not just skill. Shit, skill is teachable. What I saw was underneath the skill. It was a way he actually listened, a way of caring about why something worked, not just that it worked. When he held a case in his hands, I could actually see him maybe thinking about the person that was going to wear it. And somewhere along the way, he stopped just being an employee in my mind. And he started being maybe my transition. Maybe he could be the guy to hold on to all this. You see, guys, an exit strategy in this trade is so brutally hard to think about. You know, nobody sits you down and says, hey, here's how you hand off 40 plus years of your standards, your relationships, the trust you've built, the reputation that you've earned to any other human being. There's no CE course for that. There's no clean playbook. There's no neat little timeline. But when you think you found that person, when you see somebody absorbing not just the how, but maybe the whys, well, you let yourself believe. And I did. And then life did what life does here. The real story is what happened before it. You know, training a technician is one thing. You show somebody the software, maybe explain your design parameters. You teach them how to evaluate a scan, how to read the output off the mill, and understand whether or not what came off the mill is matching what you designed. You might stand behind them, you might correct them, you might demonstrate to them. And if they have some aptitude, well, those movements are eventually going to start to click. But training a successor is something entirely different. Because you're not teaching a digital workflow, you're actually trying to transfer instinct. The thing that tells you something's wrong before you can explain why. The judgment to look at a full arch case on the screen and know that it checks every single box there, but it's certainly not going to survive in the mouth. It might be that discipline to make a call that nobody wants to make. Or the restraint when you hold a case one more day because you know it's not ready to leave the lab. And guys, how do you teach that? Well, I'll tell you how it happened with him. And it certainly wasn't because I had some grand plan, because I just actually watched it unfold. You see, as our trust grew, and trust in my mind grows through 1,000 small movements of somebody doing the right thing when you're not standing over them. I started doing something I'd never done with anybody else in this business. I gave him the phone. Now, if you've listened to this show, you know what that means to me. I see the phone as where maybe my deepest value to this lab has always lived. Not because I was some great talker, but because that's where I saw the standards. That's where the standards met the relationships. And that's where you own the case. That's where the trust gets built or broken. The phone is my best dental instrument. And I let him use it. Not with everybody, not right away, but with the right clients, the right conversations, the right situations. And I watched him take my playbook and make it his own. And guys, he was a natural. He wasn't a copy of me. In some ways, he was much smoother than I am. He had a calmness on the phone that I have to work at. He could diffuse tension without even breaking a sweat. He listened to the way that you hope somebody will listen to you. Not just waiting for their turn to talk, but actually hearing what was underneath the words. That matters. You can't fake that. And I don't think you can really teach that either. You sure can encourage it, you can shape it, but some people just have the instinct for it. Some don't. He did. I want to be fair about this entire picture because this wasn't some polished mentorship story. He could drive me nuts too. As sharp as he was on many things that matter, those case calls, the clinical thinking, there was simple protocols that would also not stick. There were certain corners of his brain that just would let things go as well. Stuff I told him many times, stuff that was written down, stuff that I posted. And somehow, it still leaked. And I'll be honest, it drove me nuts. But I have to be honest with this. It was kind of funny. Because that's what real working relationships look like once trust is established. It's not perfect. The alignment's never perfect. It's not some hallmark version of leadership. Two people in a lab were actually just doing the work, holding each other accountable, giving each other hell when it was deserved, and then showing up again tomorrow. He was there long enough to grow, and he did. That happened. It was real, and I watched it. And watching him hold those calls, earn the trust, carry the standards in his own voice and not just an echo of mine, well, that was the season where I stopped hoping he was going to carry this and started believing that he would. I should have told him that more clearly when he was still here. That's what unfolded. They were blessed with getting pregnant. His wife wanted to have the child in their home country, and there was other family pressures, deeper things, layered things that were going on. None of these things are for me to share. They belong to him and his family. But I watched him wrestle with a choice that seemed to have no clean answer. Stay and keep building the future he was working toward, or go and honor the family that needed him. And guys, when somebody's standing before you in a moment like that, it's human nature to have that selfish instinct to argue for the version that actually benefits you. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel that pull. Part of me wanted just to look him in the eye and say, stay. We're not done yet. This plan isn't finished. I need you here. But I didn't. Because it wasn't about me. And because holding on to people who need to leave is just another version of control. Sure, it dresses itself up as leadership sometimes, but underneath it, it's fear. And he chose his family. And guys, that was the right choice. I know that. I respect it. I admire him for it. He wasn't walking away from this job. He's walking toward his future, and he wanted to honor that responsibility. He didn't choose it, but he refused to ignore it. And guys, that's integrity. But here's what came after. That lab, my lab, didn't fall apart. It grew stronger. And the part of the story is not that the team was missing out on something, because the cases still moved, the phones got answered, the standards were held. But I'm telling you, from my standpoint, that room changed. You know how that place feels different when somebody who filled it is gone. Not just the physical space, the rhythm, the current, the way questions used to move. I'd catch little moments, little tasks that nobody actually noticed until they did. And me, I keep looking at that bench. His bench. Still set up the way he arranged it. Still standing there in the middle of my lab like a place being held for somebody who isn't coming back to fill it. I walk past it every morning, and I know exactly what it is. It's the last piece of the plan that hasn't been dismantled yet. And guys, I'm still close with him. We talk all the time. I watch him now from a distance. Watching him build something of his own, and there's a real pride in that. Real pride in hearing something I poured into him come back out in his own voice. And sure, I frown sometimes too. I frown when I watch him ignore the wisdom that I tried to give him. When I hear him telling me about the all-nighters, the survival math, the push to make the mortgage, cover the next payment, keep the lights on. When I hear about the space he's renting that isn't perfect, the electrical issues he's dealing with, the challenges in the day-to-day. Outsourcing because he hasn't had the ability to buy all the technology yet. And every time I hear that, I hear myself. His furnace doesn't look like mine. He's not in a garage with a propane Bunsen burner and a 10-amp breaker, but his challenges are different. Different technology, different market, different country. But the heat's the same. The fear is the same. The stubbornness is the same. That feeling of not having enough infrastructure and find a way to make it work anyways. Guys, that's universal. That doesn't change with the era. He's in his own furnace right now, and as much as I want to reach through that phone and spare him some heat, I can't. Because that's not how furnaces work. You don't get pulled out of them. You walk through them, and the walking through is the part that makes you. This is the very special kind of ache, watching someone you've poured into go after their own version of the thing that formed you, knowing you can't quite guide them. All you can do is encourage them and maybe shorten a few hard turns, but you can't live the lessons for them. And yes, if I'm being fully honest, there's still a small part of me that hopes someday, some way, he finds his way back. Maybe that changes, maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's the hope of talking more than reality. But guys, I know this much. Losing him didn't make me harder. It makes me more aware of what I'm really carrying. And that awareness is what this story's all about. And after that bench went empty, I had to confront a question that I didn't expect to hit me as hard as it did. What am I actually protecting here? For a long time, I would have just said the business, the entity, that client list, the equipment, my staff, the thing with my name above the door. But when that plan walked out the door and I had to sit with what was left, I realized the business is not the thing. The business is just the vehicle. The thing is the standard. It's the way we own the case. It's the way we make those early calls instead of gambling on silence. It's the way we refuse to let something leave the lab that we would not stand behind with our full name and full conviction. It's the way we treat the patient's outcome as our responsibility, not just our obligation. And guys, that took decades to build. And here's the harder truth underneath it, the one that keeps a man awake. The fear is not really that the building won't survive. Buildings change hands. The equipments get replaced. Technology evolves. Your clients will come and go. That's the easy truth. The deeper fear is nobody will hold the standard the way that you held it. Not because the people around you aren't talented, they are. Not because they don't care, they do. But because the standard forged over this many years carries a weight that's hard to understand until you've carried it yourself. And I'm thinking about my staff a lot these days. These people tied a piece of their livelihood to what I built. They trust this place. They trust the standard. They trust that I'm still standing behind it today. And I am, every damn day. But the question of what happens to them someday when I'm not is there. It's real. And I'm thinking about it, working on it, wrestling with it. But I'm not going to insult you today by wrapping up this thing with a clean little answer because podcasts like endings. What I have started to understand is this. You cannot fully protect the building, but you can protect the imprint, the way you did things, the way you thought, the people you poured into, the standard they now carry into the world, even if they carry it somewhere you'll never, ever see. That young man that left my lab, he's in another country now, building something with his own hands, holding pieces of a standard that maybe started here. And some of what I gave him will move through other people I will never meet. Guys, that's not failure. That's legacy working differently than I had imagined. It just doesn't always feel good when you're learning it. There's something nobody tells you about this stage of a career. Everybody wants to talk about the beginning, that hustle, the garage, the furnace, that survival math. Those make great stories, and you've been kind enough to listen to mine. And everybody wants to talk about the end. The sale, the retirement, that last day, the chapter where the work is done and you get to sit back and admire what you built. But nobody talks about the middle, the part where you've built a thing, but you're not done with it, the part where the passion is still real, but so is the weight, the part where you're trying to be fully present in the work while also hearing the future knocking from down the hall. Guys, that's where I am. And for a while, I think I mistook that for limbo. Like I was between chapters and hadn't been handed the next page yet. Like you're supposed to be either charging or exiting. And this in-between place has no dignity. But I don't think that's true anymore. You see, I think the middle is where the meaning actually lives. You see, the beginning is survival. And yeah, there's meaning in that. But there's certainly not a bunch of peas. You're running cases and chasing payments and putting out fires every single day. You don't stop in the middle of all that heat to ask yourself what it means. And the end? Whenever that comes, it's a release, letting go, trusting what you built enough to just loosen your grip. But the middle is a choice. The choice to stay when you could step back. The choice to keep holding the standard when nobody but you would know if you let it slip just a little bit. The choice to keep showing up, not out of panic, not out of necessity, but out of intention. This is where I am. I'm not here because I don't know what else to do. I'm here because I'm not finished. So let me tie this all together, because I certainly want to end where the truth actually lands. I started the show in episode 1 talking about the weight of what we do as technicians. I shared the story of myself in that operatory with the patient who cried. And I told you how much I'd been chasing that feeling for 40 some odd years. Well, I'm still chasing it. But here's something that I did not expect. In the middle of everything I shared with you, all of the stories, all of the little things, this departure, this empty bench, the quieter days, the heavier questions, well, something else had happened. I started this podcast, and I need to tell you what this show has actually done for me. I tell you in every episode, I do this to give back, to share what this trade has given me, to protect the why in a world obsessed with how, to reach the technician in their own furnace right now. And all of that is true. But there's another truth underneath it. This show has reignited me. When I sat down to record episode 1, something opened up in me that I wasn't prepared for. 40 plus years of stories, lessons, mistakes, scars, small victories, regrets. All of it started pouring out. Not like a lecture, not like a performance. Like maybe a man finally setting down what he's been carrying long enough to actually look at it. And then you guys showed up. You listened. You reached out. You told me my words sounded like something maybe you had felt, but couldn't find the words to say. And I can't fully explain what that did to me. Because in a season where the bench had gotten quieter and the question had gotten louder, this show lit something back up. This podcast became my new furnace. Not the kind that punishes you, the kind that actually forges you. This first furnace, that garage, the heat, the breaker, the fear, well, it burned everything I wasn't and turned me into a technician. This furnace, this microphone, this conversation I'm having with you right now is doing something different. It's taking everything I am and giving it a place to matter. So no, this isn't an episode about winding down. I'm not saying goodbye. I'm not standing on a peak looking back at the view. I'm not easing my way toward the exit. I'm a man who built something with his hands, his standards, his name, and his people. Some of it's heavier than it used to be. Some of the questions are louder than they used to be. But guys, I'm still here. Still carrying it, still growing, still in the fight. And I wanted to tell you that honestly, because I trust you enough to not mistake honesty for weakness. The weight doesn't go away, guys. It changes. It asks different questions at different stages of your life, but it's still there. Every morning, every case, every call, still here. Protect your margins. Protect your meaning. And if you build something worth holding, hold it with everything you got. But hold it honestly. Because the weight you're willing to name is the weight you're strong enough to carry. Thank you for listening. Oh, hey, I'm glad I caught you before you clicked off. I'm going to ask a favor of you guys. The show is growing, which I'm very proud of. If you guys are seeing any value in the show, if you are enjoying the time and effort that I'm putting into this, there's one simple thing that many of you have not done that is free. Just go hit that follow button. That follow button does two great things. One, immediately you're going to be notified of a new show, which is awesome. But secondly, what you can do to help our trade and the visibility of this show is stimulate that silly algorithm that will give us an opportunity to push this information out to more deserved ears. So if you're getting value out of this show, that's a simple thing that you can do for me. Do for me today. Interact with the show in any way. A like on each episode is awesome. Hitting those three little dots up in the upper right corner on Apple and clicking follow me, that's a super powerful way that we can get this message out to the masses. Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to thank you for your consideration on doing that. And until next time, it's been John Wilson for Margins and Meaning.